نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Punishing children physically, or anyone for that matter, generally is discouraged in Islam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never punished anyone for personal reasons, definitely, and even when there was a dire need, he would try to avoid as much as possible. And that's the way, because most people, if not all, most people tend to learn from their mistakes. Most people are not cunning, and most people have this tendency to improve. The reason they misbehave or become a bit naughty is because of so many different factors around them. One needs to address them. For example, there's a recent case where someone asked about this, that the son, who was about 8 or 9, had started becoming a bit more like, not rebellious in a sense, but would talk back, would refuse to listen to, wouldn't stick to the plan which he was doing anyway for a long time. But all of a sudden his attitude changed to the point where he would not eat with family, and if you call him, he would say no, I'm not interested, and sometimes he's shouting and behaving like a little bit oddly. And then when they asked me, I said, okay, what has changed? And obviously they couldn't figure out there was any change whatsoever. Then I asked, has there been any change with regards to his tutors or some family members been living with you now? Is he now being to a tuition or some different activities where you are not supporting him? Or is it that he's in a new class from September and since then the things have changed? So the factor that we need to look at is, has he got some conflict, some issues, some problems, psychological or physical or whatever? And then through our working together, we identified that actually there was a lot of bullying going on with him, and he wouldn't mention it at home, and that was not in the school but in the tuition center where he was going. So unbeknown to the teachers and unbeknown to the students, there wasn't any problem there. But when he would come out, so the 2 or 3 other boys have ganged up, and I'm not saying much, but commenting, taunting, and making him feel a bit weak or lowly or whatever. Him asking that question was too much, trying to show that thing, and he became suppressed with that, and he could not express it to anyone. So little things like that. So the reason is that we do not communicate to our children. Unfortunately, we do not have time for that or temperament for that, and both of those are completely failure, a big failure, really, complete failure for us to not be able to communicate with our children. We have to have time for them, and if you can't, then stay quiet, then let it pass, let them sort it out themselves. But obviously it could go both ways, either way, and that might not be acceptable in long term. But if you don't have time to sort it out and you're too busy doing whatever, then leave it. Don't try to handle it badly if you can't handle it at all properly. So that has to be the bottom line. Find out the cause, find out why they're doing it. Why are they showing that they are in charge now? Why they're all of a sudden now? One of the things that's been found out in some kids is the fact that they're watching certain programs on phone or on the computer, laptops, whereby there is this delinquency going on, and it's seen as a cool something, or it has caused some issues whereby some of the programs do make the kids think about certain things. For example, they would suggest that your father is only doing his responsibility, mom is only doing her responsibility, so she has not done any favor to you, he has not done any favor to you. So that indoctrination is extremely poisonous and dangerous. They do not learn to be thankful. That is why you would not find many kids these days to say thank you or to apologize. They actually feel whatever they've done is justified. Now, if the kid doesn't even understand and have insight into the mistakes that they've made, how can you ever make them understand and behave properly? So you're being tough, strict, shouting, telling off, giving time off, grounding, and not even that, but then moving on to even punish in certain ways. You're not going to get your pocket money, you're not going to get this particular food that you like today, everyone else would have it. And then even hitting them. Everything of that is completely baseless, futile, and dangerous. Detrimental to the kids' tarbiyah, their training, nurturing, and is not warranted. You need to find out the cause and sort it out. Obviously, as human beings, we all have our temperaments and tantrums or whatnot. We need support as well, but as a parent, it's a big responsibility to look at everything properly, especially fathers, mothers have in their own time a very big responsibility. That is why you'll be asked about all the blessings and favors that you've been bestowed with. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would ask about this as well. This is a trust. So we've been entrusted with our children, so we have to behave properly and look after them in the best way. Not just giving them food or education, tuition and this and that. And that's something that everyone is so keen on, and unfortunately too keen on, for 11 pluses and for other exams, this tuition, that. All of that is important, but divide by half. So we're overly and zealously involved in that in order to get the material world sorted out. But what about the spiritual, the physical, physiological, psychological, the spiritual needs? We're not interested in that, or at least we don't even know. We think that taking them to the masjid against their wishes, taking them to madrasa, that's enough. Obviously not. We need to make them love deen, love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, love Quran, have the concern, make it their need, make it them rather than the opponent, thinking that, it's a big deal, I have to go to madrasa now, my goodness, I have to go to masjid, they're spoiling everything. These are small kids, let them be. And don't force them to do anything, gently. So we need to learn to behave better. Don't implement Sharia on the kids who are only pre-pubertal. Yes, when they are about 10 and post-pubertal, then that's obviously, there has to be a little bit of reprimand. There's some sort of, strictness there, and there are sensible ways. And just understand this. If you cannot make your children understand why you have behaved in a certain way, punishment or with whatever, and they couldn't see it and they couldn't agree on that, obviously not at that time because they're angry and they're upset and unhappy, obviously, so they wouldn't accept that. Subsequently, follow it up. So the best point is, when you're angry with them, get them out of the room. You come out of the room. Don't confront them. Don't deal with that at that point. Your anger would misguide you. You would never be able to judge properly. So that's what corrupts all the relationship. So the minute you get angry, for whatever reason, bite your tongue and come out of the room. Say astaghfirullah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, drink water, sit down, get involved in something else, and when you calm down an hour, half an hour later, then reflect on your own about the situation. And then see, do you really know all the facts about it? Or is it just the flippant, momentary angst that you had that you're going to respond to. If it's later, then it's completely, baseless and really harmful. So stop there, just wait, calm it down, then get your facts right, and in a nice, simple, sensible way, analyze the situation and decide whether you think this is bad enough to warrant some punishment, if any. Telling off is enough, or maybe warning, a nice, cuddly warning, or with stern warning, that you could just say that don't do that again, okay, in a joking way. There could be many different shades of that. So whatever is needed, do that, apply that, and then follow it up with something else, which is not immediately, maybe then, a bit later, on food table, while you're going, ideally food, spreadsheet on the ground, so we're sitting down in Sunnah way and talking about, all the Sunnah, how do we eat, and then say, okay, could we just have a discussion one-to-one, separately? Don't have to have a specific time to say, oh, you know what, I need to talk to you. No. Don't make it so serious. While you're in the car going with one of them, you just seize that opportunity, dropping him to school or madrasa. Say to your son or daughter, you know what, I feel that, what would you do in that situation? How do you think I should have behaved? Was I wrong, or what? And you would know that they would come up the best with some very good ideas, very best solutions, really. And you feel actually proud of them. And this is your success. This is your, whole idea, that you want to make them realize what they should and they shouldn't do in certain situations. And they would need 4 or 5 times similar reminders every so often. They would still make the mistake because they're human beings, they're small kids. But you make them go through this journey of sensibly understanding and acting properly. This is how you do day to day in your jobs. You do not censure people because they've made some mistake, or do not start fighting with them. You take things, a bit lightly and make sure that things are going okay. But anyway, so a lot of wisdom to be had. We have to be sensible, mature people, not crazy, angry, living in that moment, feeling angry to respond in such a way that even the kids would never come back to us to talk about anything. So behave. So it's hardly ever that you would need to hit, and that's the ideal situation. Obviously we're weak people, so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he never needed to do that. So that is the gold standard, and yet every kid would love him. Even the small girls, 6-7-year-old girl would come while Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is in the majlis talking to his companion, and she would seek few seconds, privacy, and would say, Ya Rasulullah, come with me. She would drag Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to show something, a bird of something, some sort. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would just go, say, okay, fine. And then, he would just make a nice comment and then come back just to satisfy that compassionate need that the baby had, that the girl had, or the boy had. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam praying, and someone is Umama, the granddaughter, Hassan and Hussein, the grandchildren, jumping on the back. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is just giving them that piggyback. MashaAllah, that's nice. Shouldn't say piggyback, astaghfirullah, but what I mean is that and giving them a little bit help there. He didn't need it, and he had enough to do. He didn't have free time for those things, but he managed to suggest that that's the ideal situation. So realize that and work for that. And when we have that relationship, even with the older kids, you would see things have changed. Make it their problem. Let them sort it out. So okay, especially with the 10 and above, they're very sensible. I can guarantee you can ask them and they will give you the best solution, and you would be surprised how clever they are. And then if they say something which is not appropriate, you just say, okay, what about this? What about that? They'll say, oh, yes. Okay. This is how you nurture them. Sticks don't work as much as carrots do. Remember that. And as I said in the beginning, most people are sensible. Most kids are lovely. They do not want to be delinquent. They only do certain things for a reason, sort that reason out, and most importantly, connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Have taqwa. If you are with taqwa, everything will come in place. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised in Quran, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. If you practice taqwa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make things easy for you, give you from where you wouldn't even imagine. And يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ يُسْرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make all your matters easy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is promising that with taqwa. So taqwa being piety, be righteous, refrain from sins, carry out all the do's, and you would see the blessing inshallah ta'ala. May Allah give us tawfiq to understand, rather than asking that, should I use atom bomb? There are 20 different things you can do before that. You hardly ever need to use it, inshallah ta'ala, perhaps never. But that's difficult in the ideal situation. We don't live in. But anyway, try. So improve yourself, things will start coming in place. May Allah give us tawfiq.